Welcome to the AGB Mindset Podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to share our journey and what we're doing to stay motivated, inspired, and driven to always get better.
We're building a community that never backs down from a challenge and seeks out discomfort. By taking part in this podcast, we hope you'll be inspired to become a part of the community and join us in our journey to always get better.
All right, welcome back to the AGB Mindset Podcast.
What's up? How you guys doing?
How you doing? So today, the guest is a co-host. I'm going to be interviewing Seth for the first time, getting you guys to, whoever listens, to get to know Seth a little better, kind of his story, what he's about. So Seth, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for being my guest.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So I guess we'll just get right back into it, or right into it. So for people to understand the man sitting across from me, what do they need to know?
Well, it's a loaded question.
It's a broad question.
It's a very broad question. I would say, if I would like to be known, it would be by, first of all, my faith in Jesus Christ. Second, by me being a husband. Third, by me being a son and a brother and a good friend. And then lastly, hopefully least important in terms of priority, would be what I do for my profession, which is fitness. Been a personal trainer for 6 years. And yeah, I mean, I like to bring people to a new place with their health and their mindset and their mentality and their outlook on what they can and can't do with their bodies and their routines and their nutrition, and just show them what's possible. I feel like a lot of people don't really believe in themselves. And that's more than anything what I do when I train people. And when I bring on new clients, is just instill belief in them that, like, you can do this. And, you know, I'm not going to be able to do it for you, but I can at least believe in you and bring you to a place where you can start to believe in you.
I like that. The first thing you mentioned was faith. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so, I mean, we grew up Christian. I've been a Christian my entire life, and I grew up with an understanding that, you know, the Bible is the written word of God. It's the inspired word of God, and that it is the ultimate book of truth, and that it's a guide to live your life by. And although I knew that as a concept, I don't think I really knew that until I was about 16, 17 maybe. I really started to dig into the Bible and started to listen to sermons and learn more about what the Bible is actually saying, and reading it and being able to apply it. You know, because when you're a kid, there's like obviously you still have that innocence. There's not a ton of things that you feel like you can apply with the Bible. I mean, you have small guilts here and there when you lie, or you know, things like that as a kid that you can apply. But as you get older, you start to realize that there's so much more that you can apply with the Bible. It speaks so true to your day-to-day situations. And yeah, so as I started to get older, I realized that it really is a guide to your life. And if you can follow it, then you know, ideally can have a pretty solid life. And once I was about 17 when I started to learn more about the Bible and more, you know, solidify my faith more in Jesus Christ. And then I was about 19 when I really started to learn more about the Bible and really dug into, you know, what the Bible's actually saying, what it means, and the just all the studying that you can do with it. I mean, people go to school for years and years and years and years just to study one book. And there's a reason. It's because there's so much to unpack from that book.
Mm-hmm.
So I really started to learn more about that from, I would say, ages like 19 to 22-ish. And I'm still learning more as I read the Bible and I study more and go to church and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, I would say that my faith, and this isn't just conceptually, because every Christian says this, and it's not to say that they are not genuine when they say this, but you've heard Christians say before, like, without Jesus Christ, I'd be lost. Like, I'd be totally lost in my life. And they mean it when they say that, and you don't really know what they mean until you know what they mean. It's it's a hard thing to explain, but there is no there's no better direction to aim your life at than the man of Jesus Christ, because he's perfect. And I think that, we can have conversations about different religions all day long, but I think that the Bible proves something about standing the test of time and also leading our world into a better place. Things have only gotten better in Judeo-Christian countries that have adopted those ethics and those, religions. And yeah, I would say that I would not be who I am, and I probably wouldn't even be half of the person that I am without the Bible and the Holy Spirit.
What happened at the ages of 16, 17 years old that made you not just take what you learned as a young kid and just say, I believe this because this is what I was brought up believing, but 16, 17 years old, you decided to dive back into it? What was going on in your life at that point that made you do that?
I think that I was just living this life that was headed in a bad direction. Like, not that I was a bad kid or anything like that. I very rarely got into trouble with anything. But I drank. I used to party in high school. Yeah. And I started drinking a little bit when I was in the 8th grade and just doing stupid crap with my friends, just like every other kid does. But I was realizing that, like, those relationships that I had with those kids where we were, a little bit more defiant and rebellious, those were it just wasn't a good thing. It was leading me to the wrong direction. And because of my background of faith, I realized that, I recognized that. And I think that when I was about 16, 17, maybe it's like between 17 and 18, I realized that, like, man, these relationships that I'm building are just so empty. And, like, they're based around partying and, like, what are we going to get into this weekend? And just a bad way to build relationships and live your life in general. And I recognized that I was kind of headed down that path. And I think that one of the major, there was a lot that went into play with, our parents, everything that they went through. But I think that one of the major players in that whole situation was the alcohol, just in general. I think that alcohol, and it's not like our parents were alcoholics or anything like that, but they enjoyed partying. And I think that you just end up looking forward to the next party. It dulls your senses. It stops you from thinking. And I realized that I was getting to that point in my life where I was, like, becoming a worse person just in general. And I was just looking forward to the next party and, what are we doing next? What are we getting into next? And I wasn't really going anywhere with it. And then another thing too is that, like, that was at the age where I was starting to getting ready to graduate high school. And all the kids that I was partying with were, like, looking forward to going off to college and partying. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to college. So, this time in my life needs to end. Like, and then that's when I really fell back into religion. And I think I've always been interested in the Bible and, like, the history. I'm super interested in history. So it was kind of easy for me to dig into because it was not only faith building and good for my spirit, but it was also interesting to me. all the stories that I was learning.
Mm-hmm. The second thing you mentioned was that you're a husband.
Mm-hmm.
You've been married a little bit over a year now, year and a half. Tell me about Brittany.
Yeah, Brittany is she's the love of my life. She's amazing, and anybody who knows Brittany, really knows Brittany, knows that she's hilarious and she's a goofball. And Brittany and I, it's funny, our relationship. Brittany and I met at my gym that I used to work at when I was, I think, 19 when I met her, and 19 or 20, and she's 3 years older than me. So when we met, I was like just graduating high school and she was in college, like, you know, older. And I always thought that she was super pretty and I was always interested in her. And I had met her like a few times coming in and out of the gym with her friends. And I had known her friends. We had some mutual friends between them. And they brought her in a few times. And I remember going on, because anytime a guest came into the gym, you had to like put them in the computer so that like you would take a picture of them and put their name in and get all their information. And I remember like after she came in, I like went back to her profile in the gym and I was like, dang, this girl's hot.
Creeping on her.
Yeah, creeping on her.
Took down her number.
Yeah, stole her number. No, I never did that. That would have been weird. But I remember just being super interested, and obviously she's older than me and not interested. And I never like made a move or anything like that. I was always just nice to her. And then I followed her on all the social medias and everything. And we followed each other for a while and we would chat occasionally just back and forth because we were cool with each other at the gym. So we'd like, you know, I'd slide up on her stories every once in a while and be like, oh, that's cool. And she took a teaching job in Hawaii. And I had asked her if she wanted to go out on a date, and she was like, well, yeah, but I'm actually in Hawaii until like August. So, and this was like April or whatever it was, whatever the time frame was. And I was like, oh, okay. So, I saw like she posted something about being home, and I asked her if she wanted to go grab dinner or something like that. And she was like, yeah, let's do it. So we went out and grabbed a pizza and started dating that summer. And, when she was going back to Hawaii, I was like, I don't want you.
How old were you?
I was 21. And that's so weird to think about. I'm 25 now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was like, I don't want you to just go back to Hawaii as like some girl that I'm talking to. Like, it's just weird. Like, I have a long distance relationship that's not even really a relationship. Mm-hmm. So I like actually officially asked her to be my girlfriend. And that was the only girl that I've ever done that with. Like, I asked her to be my girlfriend. It was just like a weird thing because people don't usually do that.
Before, would you just assume that the girl was your girlfriend?
It's just like you just like fall into it.
Yeah.
I feel like people don't really do that though. But yeah, and then she was like kind of taken aback by it, and she actually didn't answer me until because I asked her in person, and she was like, "I have to think about it," and I was like, "What?" Really? Yeah, I was pissed. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, it's been
How long
great.
did you think about it?
It was like 2 days. She thought about it. She had to think about it. And on the third day. And yeah, she ended up coming back over like a few days later and told me that she would be down to be my girlfriend.
So that's a serious decision for her.
Right, yeah, because she was going back to Hawaii.
Yeah.
And she was just thinking like this was going to fizzle out. And and it was funny because she had a like early that summer before we went out on our first date, she has like this group of like this pack of cards that her family still has, and it's like Christian conversation starters for the family. And she pulled one of the cards when she was talking to her best friend Carmen, and it said like, if there's one question you could ask God, what would it be? And she said that she just wants to know who her husband would be. Like, she just wants to know who they would be. Like, she doesn't need to get married right now or anything like that. She just wants to know who her husband is. And literally like a week later, we went on a date. So it was like one of those things. And of course, we didn't end up getting married until we got engaged. So we started dating in basically, let's call it July. we didn't get engaged until the next December because she ended up coming home in March after that. So March of 2020, she came home. And then 9 months later in December, we got engaged, and a year later we got married. So
it's a beautiful story. I remember you telling me this story when I was writing your best man speech, and you telling me this story again was just bringing me back to your guys' wedding and how amazing that was. The ceremony was beautiful, and I think you guys are a great match.
thank you.
What does she mean to you? Where is her place in your life?
Yeah. I mean, she's my bride. It's like every single, and here's the thing about marriage, like marriage is not easy. It's not easy. You will probably have daily challenges. Most people. And there's some good seasons, there's some bad seasons, but there's challenges every single day. And especially when you come from being a single dude, like you have this sense of freedom that you sacrifice, but it's a sacrifice for responsibility, and it's a sacrifice to be a good husband. And, but yeah, I mean, there's daily challenges. She means everything to me. She's the first person that I go to with everything. And that's like one of the things that I'm trying to work on as a husband is one of the challenges that I'm facing as a husband every single day is going to her first. And because she wants to be the first one, like she wants to be sought after, she wants to be pursued. And I tend to just kind of tell everybody everything, and I don't really think of it as anything, but she wants to be the first one to know. And like, that's what I'm talking about. Daily challenges. It's like you are fighting every single day to be a better person for that person, and they're doing the same for you. And you guys are a team. You're one, you're united in one spirit. And like, it's hard because you're not perfect, but she means everything to me. I mean, you're my brother. I love you. Like we've been super, super close since we were, you were like 16, 18 maybe when we like started to get really, really close. And my relationship with Brittany means more to me, and obviously it's different, but it's like she is priority number 2 under God, my relationship with Jesus Christ. And like, it's a weird thing to rank order that list like that, because you're like, this is someone I literally just met 4 years ago. But when you prioritize it like that, and when you think of it that way, your marriage will get better, because you can't think of it any other way and expect to have success.
Right.
It's just like business. Like you can't put your business on the back burner and expect it to grow. You can't put your marriage on the back burner and expect it to be good. It needs to be, other than like taking care of your relationship with God and your spirit, it needs to be the main thing. Otherwise it'll fail. Mm-hmm. It'll fail. And things don't get better left on their own. They only get worse.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, she means everything to me because of that. And also she makes me a better person.
How so?
Because of that. Because it's that constant striving. It's that, and like, I would not know compassion even at 10% of what I know it now because of her. I feel like I'm a much more compassionate and patient person because of her. And I tend to be, before her, a little bit more calloused and hard and not compassionate with people. It's not that I didn't love people, but just less understanding and less patient. And like, she's challenging me in that way, that I'm realizing that I have faults and I have things that I need to work on that have to do with like the tender side of your spirit that I always thought of as like, oh, that's for weenies, I don't need that. Like, but you do need that to become a whole, complete person.
Right. And
she's challenging me in those ways, and we're helping each other grow.
Yeah. That's amazing. So you're married, been married a year and a half. And that's obviously going really well. What are your plans in the next 5 years?
5-year plans.
Yeah, where do you, 5 years might be a bit too long. Mm-hmm. I'd say 2 years, 3 years.
Right. I really enjoy training people in person, but I would probably do it a little bit less if I were making more income through social media, which is when we talk about 2 or 3 year plans. I want to be running a community that's not only in person but also online, that feeds into, the AGB Mindset podcast, that feeds into the VersaFit Run Club, that feeds into the wintertime events that we'll put on and host for people to be able to come out in the wintertime in the Midwest, because people don't do anything in the wintertime in the Midwest.
It's hard.
Yeah. But like in terms of 2 or 3 year plans, like essentially being the head of a community that embodies the AGB mindset. And in doing that, I own my own gym. I own my own space. I hire on my own trainers that also are buying into the AGB mindset, the VersaFit mentality. And then in terms of, and that's more of a work thing, getting brand deals, stuff like that with different companies that I'd like to work with and making income through those means. But then also, in terms of my faith, I want to be more of a pillar in the community in terms of a man of faith in my church. I want to be known as somebody, like, that's what you were saying, like, who is this guy sitting across from me? What do you want to be known as? And that's got to be number one. Like, I want to be known as somebody with integrity who loves the Lord, loves people, and is a pillar of the community that shows up and works hard and does what he says that he's going to do, and just loves people, and I don't want to be in it for the money. I mean, obviously the money's important. I think it's good to be wealthy. I think it's good to make a lot of money, but I don't want that to be where my heart lies. I want my heart to lie with God and with people, and in my marriage as well. And then in terms of marriage, kids, I'd love to have some kids with Brittany.
Little buff Seth running around.
I was thinking about that. Like, it's a weird thought to think that eventually we're going to have kids and like we're going to be raising children and we're going to get them into sports. And I think I want my kids to play golf.
I do too.
I think that's like the main thing that I really want them to get like obsessed with, if they're going to get obsessed with a sport. It's just so fun. So cool as a kid
you teach them at an early age, and it's something that they could do forever. If not, get really good at it and do something special.
Right. So those are like main priorities. I kind of jumped around a little bit, but in terms of 2 to 3 year plans,
do you want a boy or a girl first?
I don't know. I like conceptually, I feel like having a boy first would be amazing, because you have a boy, but I also think it would be really good for me as a guy, to have a girl first.
The way your life is trending, it looks like you're gonna have a girl.
I know.
You live with 4 girls.
Right.
You have a girl dog.
Girl dog.
You married
Brittany's
a girl.
Super girly. Like, I think that Brittany would be super upset if we only had boys. Not super upset, but she'd start freaking out if we had like 3 boys. She'd start really tweaking. We're gonna keep going until we have a girl, because
that might be good for Brittany.
Yeah,
because she's never had a brother.
Yeah, she's never had a brother.
Just her dad.
Yeah. You've heard that Joe Rogan joke about like the mountain of marbles. Like each marble is a piece of masculinity. Yeah, 100%. I feel that way with just Brittany and Cannoli. I like talk to Cannoli in a baby voice.
Yeah.
Like I'm some.
Well, I think that's probably good for you.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you said that you can be a little calloused in some ways. Why do you think that you could be that way? Why do you think that you tend to be a little bit more callous towards people?
I really honestly I think that I set standards too high for myself and for others. And I try to live up to my own standards, but I fail at it most of the time. And when people fail at standards that I set for them, I get pissed, because I'm like, if you're my client, I've set a standard for you to show up. Like, to show up, have a good attitude, and work hard. And that doesn't mean you need to throw 150 pounds over your head if you're a girl. Like, that doesn't mean you need to be strong or to be crazy athletic. It just means show up, have a good attitude, and work as hard as you can at this moment. And like, when people don't live up to that standard, I get super frustrated because I don't feel like that is very hard. And it is really hard for some people. But personally, I feel like that's a minimum requirement. It's a minimum requirement to do anything in your life. Show up, have a good attitude, work hard. Like, that's minimum requirement. And in anything, that's your marriage, that's your work, that's your relationships. And if you're not doing those things, then you're what are you doing? Like, why even do it? You know? And I feel that way with some people sometimes, like in terms of, even I'm not going to get into like personal specifics, but like I set standards too high for Brittany, and the situation that we have going on in the house, like in terms of like doing chores, like I always do dishes, and 99% of the time, 99.9% of the time, by the end of the night, there is not a dish in the sink and there's not a dish on the rack. They're all cleaned and put away. And I hold myself to that standard because I feel like that's my responsibility. And when there's chores that you let by, or there's things that you let by, responsibilities that you have to other people, I get super frustrated about it. And I don't know why. Like, that was your question. Like, why do you feel callous? Why do you feel like you lack compassion? I really don't know why. Because it's not like I'm the most disciplined person in the world. Like, but when it comes to other people, if I feel like it's important, I'm going to follow through with it. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's what it is. They just don't feel like it's important. They don't have that priority.
And that's frustrating.
And it's super frustrating for me. But again, I don't know why. I wish that I was more compassionate with people and that I could just kind of blow things off and let it go. Mm-hmm. But I definitely have a hard time with that. And that makes me bitter and a little more calloused and less compassionate when I see people struggling with stuff that just doesn't seem like it should be a struggle.
Right.
What do you think about that? I know you're the
I'm
interviewer.
You. I think that it's a hard thing to be self-aware. I think it takes a lot of time. I think it takes a lot of experience in life to understand why you are the way you are. And I think it comes back to loving people, regardless of the shit that they've done or what they've done to you or the way they live their life. It's hard to get to a place where you can just accept people for who they are.
Right.
And it may stem from not accepting yourself for who you are. And it's like the way, the world is kind of a mirror, right? Mm-hmm. So the way you see the world, it kind of reflects back at who you are. And I think that taking a step back from a knee-jerk emotional reaction towards somebody and looking at them for just being a phenomenon. They're just an individual. Mm-hmm. They're not, they're unique and they have flaws, but they also have, most people have a lot of good in them. Mm-hmm. And looking for the good versus obsessing over where they can improve is something that I struggle with as well. That's kind of why I asked you, but that's just kind of the conclusion that I've come to over the years.
I will say this, because you're about to get married. It's probably one of the most detrimental things that you can do in your marriage is just constantly have these high expectations. It's just having expectations in general. I'm not saying, I don't know how to give a wise answer on this, because obviously when you're married, you have responsibilities and people have expectations of you, and I think it's okay for you to have expectations of others. But when you enforce those expectations and those responsibilities in a way that makes it like, this is not going to go well unless you uphold your end of the deal, it's very transactional. The relationship becomes more transactional than about, I love you no matter what, even though I do feel that in my heart, but it's based on what you're doing. I feel that in my heart, but like the love that I'm going to dispense is based on what you're doing and how I feel about you currently. And like, that's been one of the most challenging things. I'm more patient with Brittany than I am anybody, because I've had to figure that out. Like, I've had to figure out, like, hey, buddy, like, you should not be treating your wife this way. Like, who cares if she didn't, hold up her end of the responsibilities on getting groceries like she said she was going to today, or just doing what she said she was going to do when it's important to you, but she couldn't get to it. And then you start to, like, personally, I start to nitpick, and I'm like, well, she could have gotten to it if she would have focused or done this or that. And it's like, dude, like, if you're going to do that to your relationship, good luck. You're going to have a freaking rocky road ahead of you, because it's just not the way to live. And I recognize that, and I'm working on that every day. But it's something that I definitely struggle with. And I feel way more compassionate about Brittany because I love Brittany. Like, I truly love Brittany. And when other people do that I don't really love like that, I'm just like, you suck. And it's such a negative way to think about people. I don't want to be that way, but it's a hard thing to combat.
What do you think is a quality that you have that is a blessing and a curse? Something that helps you, but also can hurt you.
I was going to say my astonishingly good looks. No. I don't want to say this because people say this about me, and it's so funny. Like, people are like, well, you're so disciplined, and you're so disciplined with this and that. And I don't feel disciplined. Like, people tell me that I'm disciplined, but I don't feel that way. I always feel like I have a mile of room for improvement, and I feel like that's what it would be, is just my expectations that I have of myself versus the realizing that, like, I'm doing good, and like balancing that out, like appreciating what I am doing versus expectations for what I should be doing. Because even if I was doing everything, I would be failing somewhere. I would find a place to figure out where I'm screwing up. I'd figure out a place that I need to improve on and work on. And that's kind of life just in general, because you only have so much time in the day. If you're doing really, really well in business, you're probably slacking somewhere else, because that's just how life is. So yeah, I mean, like, if I was crushing it in business, I'd probably be pretty hard on myself about, am I being a good husband? Am I being a good Christian? Things like that. So
the AGB mindset is a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, it is. It is. But you know what? What's the alternative? That's my question. Like, you might be able to have a well-balanced version of that. Like, I'm doing well. I want to push myself, but I also want to appreciate where I'm at, which is great. And I think that's where everybody should be. But like, what's the alternative to, because I think if you don't adopt that mindset of pushing yourself, then you're just content. Like, who wants to live that life? I'm just happy with what I'm doing right now. And it's like, I don't know. I don't want to live that life.
Right.
And I don't think most people do. I think it just scares people to, some people aren't thinking about it. And I think people who do think about it, it scares them to really step out and try. But I will say, like, I've been there where it scares me to step out and try. And I was just there recently, pretty heavy in an area of my life. And like, I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm going to figure it out,
What area was that?
My career. And like, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? Because this is not, training people is not the most lucrative business that you can get into. And it's not like I'm struggling financially, but long term, am I going to be able to retire with millions? And I'm playing a high risk game of I have to either make this work or bust, you know? And like, it's a high risk game, but what's my alternative? Like, go sit at a desk for 8 hours a day and talk to people I don't want to talk to about shit that I'm not interested in and just hate my life. Like, and yeah, I might make decent money and I might be able to have a great support for my family for the rest of my life and retire well and die at 70 with 5 million in the bank. Like, that's great. But did I enjoy my life? Like, did I enjoy it? And if you can bring yourself through that scenario and say yes, then great, go ahead and do that. That's fine. I'm not one to judge that, for you to choose what you're going to do with your life. But for me personally, it's a 100% fact that no, I would not enjoy my life if I didn't do something I was passionate about on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I agree with you. Seth, this has been a great podcast. I think that whoever listens is going to get to know more about you and the man you are and the values that you hold. And I think that you really embody the AGB mindset. Although it is a blessing and a curse for you, I think that you're going to succeed at this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. What piece of advice would you give to somebody who is struggling with that mindset?
I would say this is an issue that I have. When I'm not in that mindset of like getting better and pushing myself and like constantly trying to improve, it's not that I don't want to, or it's not that I'm being lazy. It's just that I'm distracted. It's so easy to be distracted today. So like, if you are struggling with that in general, if you're struggling with being the person that you want to be, shut the shit off and sit down with a book and a pen and write down your thoughts. Like, write it down on paper, get it out of your head, make it concrete, put it on paper. What do you want in your life? Like, what's your North Star? What are you aiming at? And, you know, and it's not to say that you need to shut off all your electronics for, you know, a year or whatever, just to focus and think about it, although it probably would be really good for you. But like, even if you were to just take an hour at the end of your night and just shut it off and bring out a notebook and a pen and paper, like every morning I journal and I write down what I'm thinking about. And it's the morning pages. You've done that too. And like, that time is so powerful because you're getting your thoughts out on paper and you're not distracted. And if you're struggling with that mindset, it's not that you don't want to do it. It's not that you can't do it. It's that you're probably distracted. And that's why you're not doing it, is because everything is pulling you everywhere and you're not just focusing on what you want and how do I get it? What are the steps that I need to take today? And what does that look like in a month? What does that look like in a year? And yeah, I mean, if you're struggling with that, just write it down, get it out of your head, get it onto paper, make it solid and concrete so it's real and you can see it.
I love that. I'm going to do that tonight, actually. I haven't done that in a while.
Yeah.
And it's powerful. That's powerful to get your thoughts on paper. Well, Seth, thank you so much for sitting down and answering all these questions.
Yeah.
And thank you all for listening to the AGB Mindset podcast. And I hope that you guys got a lot of wisdom out of this, a lot of benefit. And yeah, let's we'll catch you guys on the next one, and hope you have a great rest of your day.
Peace.
Thanks for tuning in to the AGB Mindset Podcast. If this message has inspired you to always get better, please help us spread the word by sharing with a friend.
We would also greatly appreciate if you would leave a rating and review on whatever platform you are on. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on all social platforms so you never miss out on future AGB content. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Never break, always fight, never quit, do it right, play the game.